Welcome to the Hell is Chrome podcast and live stream. If you're tuning in, thanks so much for jumping on live with us. This is the longest running and only supporter focused podcast in the greater San Diego area. I'm your host, Andrew Dyer. We are another week along in this long yellow brick road to the beginning of SDFC's season and the opening of supporter tickets. Now, that's still a few months away, but the gates are open now for memberships, and the union is now available on social media platforms. So if you are on social media, give them a follow everywhere you're at. That way you can stay up to date with what's coming out because this snowball is going to be accelerating as we get closer to the season and closer to the release of those supporter section tickets that I know everyone is waiting for. Now, for more on the status of everything, we have the president of the Supporters Union and the producer of the show, the co-host of this show, the busiest man not getting paid to do this stuff is John Cross. John, uh, you been busy?
I've been very busy, yes. I am very tired this evening. And I hope, I've been busy, yes, but clearly, based on last week's episode, I don't have the most reliable internet connection. So I really hope I make it all the way through the podcast with you tonight and don't leave you hanging at the end like we did last week.
No, it was great content. I think everybody, the feedback I got, people were just skipping the rest of the show, going straight to that last 5 minutes to watch me tap dance. And there you go again, John. Are you still with me?
I hope I'm here. Am I here?
Your video kind of did
Oh
a
no.
little freezing thing.
All right.
We will stick. Let's go ahead before the matrix collapses in on itself over there at your house. Uh, let's get some information out to folks right
Okay.
off the top. Now, last week, I think it was last week, I might have given you a lot of crap
A little
about
grief.
social media and the union not being on socials yet. That's been remedied. I'm glad that somebody over there is listening to me. The cause effect relationship here is crystal clear. Uh, where can people find the union on social media?
Well, I guess first we should do the name right now that the union is using. So the union did come up with a business name, which was San Diego Independent Supporters Union, so we could legally
Sorry, I
do
was
all the
nodding
work
off there
that
for a
we're doing.
second. What was that name
Yeah,
again? What was that name again? Uh,
it's the very exciting San Diego Independent Supporters Union. So we have that, and that's what's being used right now at the moment. As we know, has been well documented on this podcast, the kind of kerfuffle with the name La Raza over the summer. So there was a decision made in August to move forward with a name that would allow us to get all our other stuff that we needed finished, but also give us space. We intentionally picked, I'll call it a boring name. That's what I've been calling it to everybody else, but a factual descriptor to give us room to create some additional branding. Rather than, I don't know that anybody loves that name, but I mean, I'm sure there's some people that hate it, but it's a name. It's like, it's a name. We're moving on so we can do the other important things that we need to do, but also still have that conversation about some other branding and how we'd want to do it. And it might, you know, we don't know as things keep evolving. There's conversations now where maybe we just want to help promote the individual SGs really more than have a unified single kind of branding, or maybe identify the section and elevate the SGs, right? So
so is
those are all conversations.
the club going to allow you to do that?
Yes,
You have to get
those
permission
those
from the
those have
club.
been things.
You have to
those
get
have
their
been
permission
things
to do that sort of thing, or
those have been things we made sure to work out, that there was no misunderstanding and everybody's on the same page moving forward. Yes. So that was also part of the, for us, the shift to the other name was to do, as I mean, you heard me say it on the podcast for months, trying to get to open memberships and things. And to open memberships, there's different legal hurdles we had to get to. So we needed a name to keep moving forward to be able to do those things. So that's where we are right now with that name. So the socials, so the initials for that are SDISU, and then the socials are SDISUORG, right? So
Sidisu.org.
SDISUORG,
This
right?
rolls
Because
off the
we're a
tongue.
nonprofit organization, and we do have the domain sdisu.org. We have a different website through Chant at the moment, but we will be using that domain shortly to open up our bigger website, which will profile the different SGs, and we're working on getting that together right now. But we do have another website, which I could put a link in the chat if we want, and show that. But that's where you go to sign up for memberships right now, and they are open to everyone.
All right. So, yeah, were they open to everybody last week when we talked? I don't think they were.
I think technically they were open to everyone, but we hadn't made any kind of really public announcement. I think internally we told everybody, feel free to share it around. Also, again, just making sure we're testing and everything's working. And we haven't had, there were a couple minor technical glitches and hiccups when we first started doing some signups. We got those ironed out, and we haven't had any since. So,
So let me ask you
we're
this.
ready to go.
Let me ask you this: what's the point in signing up? Because so like I'm a member of the locals, right? I paid my annual membership dues to be a member of the locals, and I'm paid for the year, right? Like I'm already a
Right.
member of the supporter group. Why do I need to join the union and shell out more money? Can you explain why that might be
Yeah.
important?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. One of the things we had to sort out over these last several months was how to structure the union along with the SGs. And again, there's some legal implications. I don't want to go into all the details because I'm sure, as we've always joked about, the riveting podcast content. But we have some SGs that are already legally incorporated. We have others that are just informal groups of people. So the decision was made to keep the union as its own separate entity. It is completely separate from the SGs, and that was done to really help protect the independence of the SGs. So even though, to use your example, you may be a member of the locals, if you want to be part of what's going on in the section for SDFC matches, you need to be a member of the union as well. So part of that was figuring out, well, how do we do the price structure for the union? Is the union going to collect money on behalf of the SGs, and then turn around and help manage some of that? And really what it ultimately came down to is just keep the union for union stuff, for match days, and for mostly just match days, and leave most everything else out to the independent SGs to do what
wait
they
a
want to
second.
do.
I can't
Yes.
join a supporter group through the union portal.
No, when you go through the portal, you will sign up and affiliate with a particular supporter group.
And that makes me a member of that supporter group. And
that's up to the individual supporter group how they want to handle that, because some supporter groups may choose to do an additional, maybe smaller fee on the side to do their own stuff outside of the union, right? So this is part of working with multiple groups and trying to find avenues and pathways that work for each group. So the union is really just focused on match days and tickets, right, for the matches, and where everybody is there together. So just like you could be a member of, say, Chavos and the locals at the same time, if you want to do union stuff, you have to be a member of the union. And it's up to the individual SGs how they want to work with that, with the union. and whether they want to offer a merch package through the union store or on their own.
So
So
I could
that's something that individuals will have to also work out with their SGs.
so theoretically I could go through the union portal, affiliate with an SG that I'm not a member of, and just uh, in the union's eyes, I'm affiliated with that SG, but maybe that SG has no idea who I am. They have no record of me being a member of their SG. I'm just affiliated with them through my union
Uh,
membership.
uh, Another good point, another good question to bring up. But no, like as people sign up and they affiliate, we're sharing this information with the SGs so that we can iron out things. We have in our instructions that if you are already a member of one of the SGs, pick it. But if you're not, you should pick none. And then internally can kind of go through the process to decide which SG. Now, will some people or will everyone read those instructions? And, will some people accidentally click something that they shouldn't? Yes, we'll have conversations with those people and we'll hook up the SG leaders like, hey, here's someone who is interested who's not on your list. Do you want to reach out and talk to them? Some groups don't really, they want them to go through the SGs first, before they go through the union. Other groups are very eager, like, yeah, if they sign up, then we'll reach out to them and bring them in as part of our group. So
Okay. Well, I feel like this there were some issues in the early stages when we were talking about how this was organized,
right,
where it sounded to me very advantageous for groups to be kind of administratively organized under the union, right? So that
right,
certain like legal things and tax things would all flow through the union organization, and the SG could just focus on what it wants to focus on, right? Like, for example,
right.
like with the locals having dissolved its nonprofit, right? Uh, the SG is not an entity that can legally, sell merchandise and things, right? Like it would have to be through the union. But if the union is not actually, if these SGs are not like administratively tied to the union, which it sounds like they're not, it's just like, doesn't that go back to that exact same problem where like these groups are, you're kind of on your own, like, hey, you want to organize a supporter group, you better form your LLC or you could be in trouble with the IRS. Like they can't do it through the union.
They can do it through the union. So the option is there if they want to. But we do have some groups that want to maintain a legal entity presence outside of the union. So again, try to create a structure that allowed us to do that, allow us to work. So let me give you kind of an example, like from, as most people know, I'm a teacher. So when I'm a high school teacher, I'm employed by my school district, but I'm also a member of a union. And, I pay my union dues to be part of that union. And when I go to my union meetings, I am there not as an employee of my school district. I'm there as a union member, but I usually have my school gear on and my school colors, and I'm representing the interest of my school. But when I'm in that union function, I'm wearing my union hat. Does that make sense? So, but when I'm
It
at my
just sounds
school,
very, it sounds like the union has structured itself in such a way to appease like a couple groups, whereas most of the groups are not independent entities, right? Like it sounds like you're doing a lot to kind of accommodate, how many groups are independent legal entities. My understanding was that most of them were not.
well, I will push back a little on the first thing you said. I think the way we structured it, one, offers flexibility and also streamlines things for the union and makes it a heck of a lot easier. But I think the last time we probably spoke about this, there was one entity. Um, I believe right now, from what I've heard, there's more, and there's more that now that they've weighed options and other things are looking to legally incorporate outside as well. So, right, they have the space to do that if they want. They can be under the umbrella completely of the union if they want, and everything can be handled there, and they can just focus on the fun stuff. Or if they want to maintain some kind of legal presence outside of the union, they can do that as well. But to get back to one of your original questions, the union is where that game day piece is going to take place. Mm-hmm. And if you want tickets, tickets go through the union. You have to be a union member if you're going to get the season tickets or individual match day tickets as we move forward. So that's the first big, huge advantage of being a union member, plus all the, you and I are both members of the locals, and we were in 109 before. So all the member benefits that you get with the club and the exclusive things you get, those are going to be exclusive to the union. So people who are union members will get those benefits. Not individual. I mean, it's a technicality, but technically it's not the SGs that are getting the benefits. It's the union that's getting the benefits. So as long as you are a union member and a member of the SG or just a member of the union, you will get those union benefits. And I know probably from people's way they think about things, especially prior to this, it may sound a little convoluted, but there was a lot of time and thought to go into how to make this structured in a way that makes it streamlined and easy for the union to move forward and for the SGs to move forward, whichever avenue that they want to do. But allows us to still be together, stand shoulder to shoulder, sing with one voice on match days.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I my understanding, like, there was kind of like this idea: is there's like a strong union or like kind of a weak union? Like how much,
right?
How much like I don't want to use the word authority, but like how much like is the union going to be able to lead on things? And I'm thinking of like, specifically some of the social issues that come up that oftentimes supporters take stands on things, right? And if you're not like a unified front as a supporter section, which in my mind comes from being in a strong union, but when the union kind of relinquishes certain powers or whatever, certain roles, right? When it relinquishes that to its member groups, you have a more kind of like confederated organization structure, right? Like, am I totally off there? Is that not what's going on?
Well, I mean, this is where I think there are requirements, right, from the state of California, from what the club wants, from MLS, and there's some legal technical issues to look at this, or the more practical way of looking at it. If you look at it just kind of from the legal technical issue, on game days, everybody there is a member of a union. That's it. You're a union member. But in practical terms, because the way union is structured and because you can affiliate with an SG and wear those colors and bring those flags, and we've developed governance around the SGs as well so they can have a say in how this union works, even though technically that SG exists outside of the union, especially if they're, legally incorporated somewhere else. If they're a member of that SG and a member of the union, they can represent that SG within the union in terms of governance and everything else. But so in a practical sense, yeah, you can wear colors and scarves and stuff and represent your SG. But on match days, technically, we take off our SG hat and you're wearing your union hat. I mean, so if we're looking at code of conduct and how you get tickets and bringing in drums and bringing in your banners, that all falls under the union umbrella on match day and whatever the union guidelines and rules and negotiations we've done with the club. But again, we've created that space so that we allow for that individuality of the SGs. And so that can flourish within the section as well. And that identity can be there. So we're not just one uniform mob. We're there together, hopefully, as you said, as a strong union, but still representing lots of different identities and cultures and neighborhoods and groups within our larger community of San Diego.
So now that you've got this opened up, What has the club said about tickets? When can people expect these supporter section tickets to? Are we still looking at like November, December? Like, is it still that far off?
Yeah, I would say isn't my from my best understanding. I mean, I don't know. The club could change and make a decision differently, but I believe all the other tickets are available outside the supporter section. Like if you're interested in season tickets and anything outside of that supporter section, you can buy those. But the supporter section ones, I would bet 99% it will not happen in September. October is probably iffy, if at all. In October, it'd probably be later October. So like that might be, what we're starting to look at as a realistic time frame for when those tickets will go on sale. We haven't had a solid word on when they are specifically, other than later in the fall.
So when and maybe this hasn't happened with the club yet, but will people buy the tickets from the union website, or will they have to provide their union membership number to the club and buy them from the club's website? How does that work?
Right. So we're working out the details of that, but you will need to be a member of the union in order to purchase those tickets. If you are not a member of the union, you will not be allowed to buy those season tickets.
Hmm.
That's the bottom line. So same with individual match day tickets, at least that's where we are now, that you need to be a member of the union. Now we're working out details for all of that and structure and how that works, but um, that's where everything stands at the moment. You need to be a member of the union in order to get access to those tickets. Now, there's an outside chance that if we as a union can't handle that, like we don't sell enough season tickets and then it goes to individual match day tickets and we can't like flip those match day tickets among supporters. I'm sure there will be some kind of cutoff, and if we don't have those by that day, then they will open them up because right, they're not going to leave the seats empty.
Right.
Um, but it's
So-
it's kind of on us to get that done first,
Okay.
unless it doesn't. So
When does the union start leaning on the club to make sure they participate in the Open Cup next year?
good question. You know what? But that as a strong proponent of the Open Cup,
I know that's why I
I
asked.
I feel you. You know, I had my shirt on Two Balls and a Mic last night when I was on their podcast, the Open Cup Matters, with
I'm
my
just ready to fight with MLS
my
about
scarf
something.
over
Like
here.
let's start fighting. What's the next fight?
Um, I, you know what? It's just I'm glad you said that. I just made a note to myself, but that just hasn't even been on my radar because I'm so busy with other things at the moment. But
I feel like that's
yeah,
something you got to kind
that's
of
a very
start
good question.
putting in their ear now, right? Because I don't know
Yeah,
when they make these schedules or make these decisions, but I would think for an expansion team, you're probably going to want to have as many games as you can, right? You want to give people as many opportunities to come and see the new team as possible. And I think Open Cup is one of those kind of venues where it's kind of low stakes, I think, especially for an MLS club, right? In the early rounds of the Open Cup, maybe you're playing up in Orange County or something. Like, it would be fun to go up to Orange County and watch SDFC play Orange County FC, right? Like at,
oh
at,
yeah,
at Orange County, that would be a lot of fun. That would be cool. So I'm just thinking like, if I'm a marketer, if I'm launching an expansion team, like knowing how things went down this season with MLS and all of the Open Cup stuff, um, I I would think and I would hope that they are thinking the same way. Like let's be part of the longest running cup cup tournament in the world. Like let's be part of this historic important thing, like this legacy. I mean, American soccer doesn't have a lot of legacies, let's be honest. This is like this is the one that we've got.
right. Yeah, I that's an excellent point. And again, I just added a couple more things there to my notes, but yeah, I've just been like the legal part of this and the business part of it. It's not so much fun, but there's so many things that are first time things that once we
Mhm.
get past that and get them under our belt, we can really I mean, we already have some people that are really starting to focus on match day and match day committees and starting to look forward to that, which is good. That was my goal here in September. We could really
Yeah.
start getting people, some dedicated people, to really start
So
looking at
let's
that
talk
while we
about that
tidy up the business stuff.
because we were talking before the show, and we've hit on it a bunch on this show about the need for volunteers on these committees.
Yes.
Where and now I have of course kind of resigned, and I'm not affiliated with leadership. I'm not on any committees.
Right.
I do not make any decisions. My opinions and thoughts do not weigh in on any decisions. But uh, when we left off, these committees had just formed and they were starting to have meetings.
Hmm.
Where are we at? And more importantly, what needs to happen? You're still looking for people, right?
We're always looking for people because we have a lot to do, and the group is going to be, I mean, it's going to number in the thousands eventually. So we have a lot of things to help monitor membership and membership issues, to help plan events, because we need to have a wide variety of events. Not everybody's going to want to do the same things. Some people are more interested in the social part of it. Some people like doing some of the perks with the club, like player meet and greets or something like that, where, other people, they don't care. Some people like to be at matches and be in the sections. Some people like the watch parties more, right? So there's lots of planning that needs to happen around a variety of events. And how, with larger and larger groups, when we were with the locals, the two of us doing things regularly with them, even though the locals were 300 people, you do a watch party and you might get 30 to 50 people show up, depending where it was, what the game was, right? It might be a little larger, but you knew you weren't getting a ton of people. If you take that
Man, I
and
miss those
now,
watch parties.
right,
Sorry,
but
go
but
ahead.
now if you take the same relative percentage, like maybe you were getting 10% or 20% of your total overall members that would show up to an event. Well, if you take 3,000 now and take the same amount, 10 to 20%, to accommodate that, you need a much larger venue. So
You need
trying to
multiple
find,
venues. You're going to have multiple venues, I
or,
think.
well, depending what you're doing, right? So we either, for some events, have to find some much larger venues, and looking at that then in terms of cost and timing and making reservations for things, or multiple venues around the county, which for watch parties, that is obviously going to happen. There's going to be stuff that pops up all over the county, so people can stay somewhere local to
So is
watch
there
the
is there
matches.
is there an avenue established right now? So if I own a bar, if I own a brewery, and I want to sponsor the union, I want to give you guys beer for game day. I want to host. I want to be an official partner. I want to be an official watch party location. I want to do. Is that open yet? Like, can I? Who do I reach out to at the union to say, hey, I want to be part of this. I want to help out. Uh, because I know that happens at other clubs, right? Other
Right.
supporter groups. They're sponsored by a brewery, right? Like they have like their partners in either a bar or a brewery, like that's like kind of their,
Yeah.
sort of like what's the Riptides have with Hopnonymous. Kind of,
Right.
I don't know how official that partnership is, but clearly there's a relationship. Um, and I think that's going to happen with the union as a whole. I would think.
Yes. And again, writing down a couple of things as you're speaking. Um, we do have, part of getting all this structured as a nonprofit is we have now a Google Workspace and we have a domain. So we have the emails at sdisu.org. So one of them is just info at sdisu.org. So if there is anybody who's interested, who's listening, who would like to partner, you can send an email there, and we'll get it, and we can reach back out to people who might be interested. Um, but that would be the basic place to at least send an email if anybody who's interested in partnering in some way for right now.
You know who would be a good partner? I think Smith. They have a big space. They
They
have
do
good
have a
beer,
big space.
really good beer. Uh, Just start naming. Pizza Port would be a great one too. They have locations around the county.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Those are, initial conversations. Well, some people already have relationships with some places. So those are going to
mhm.
be natural, I'm sure, venues where people are going to watch
I'm just picking my favorite
and
breweries, right?
right. And they've built up those relationships over the years. Uh, but we are going to have to start looking at other ones in communities
Mhm,
that are, I don't want to say underserved, but maybe underserved with a dedicated place to watch. Like we all
mhm,
know places like Fairplay and North Park. There's tons of play
mhm.
Bluefoot in North Park, right? There's places we know that are soccer friendly that you could
Oh yeah,
always go to watch
Border
matches.
X in Logan, but
Border X,
that
yeah.
place gets. Were you there for the what did we go watch there? The Euros. Were you there for that Euro
I
final?
did not go there. That was when they had the Bridge Barcata the same time.
I
Was that it?
oh
Like earlier in
I
that
can't
same day?
remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's what I did not go to that one. I went to a previous one. Maybe it was Champions League that I went and
Okay.
saw. But yeah, it must have been Champions League. But I mean, like that's a great space. But I mean, that's also it was crowded.
Yeah. But I mean, we want to work those partnerships
Hmm.
and find places that will be that they will dedicate to showing the match, especially away matches.
Hmm.
So we need to find out which places those will be and how that's going to work. So there's the scale just moving up from what we did with the locals is
Hmm.
tremendous. So we
Yeah.
need so many more people helping out. We will never be short on need. So anybody who wants to help out or has you're good at something, we and you're willing to help, we will gladly put you to work if you're willing to offer your services, all the way from the legal and fiscal side to the event planning side, to make sure we have a business that runs smoothly and meet all our legal and fiscal requirements to ensure that we're able to do all the fun stuff that we actually want to do.
Okay. Is there anything specifically you're looking for right now, or is just an open call? Like, what's the next most pressing thing? You mentioned your bylaws are almost done. What's still out there?
I would say the most pressing is the legal and fiscal area. People who have bookkeeping experience. So we need to start. We don't technically have a committee right now, but we need to start seriously looking at how we're going to approach merch. So
Here's a, here's a here's
anything,
here's a just a little piece of free advice.
yeah,
Don't call it the bookkeeping committee. Call it the merch committee. Okay. And the people that want to be involved in merch, you say, oh, by the way, part of your job as being merch is running the books for merch. And that way you kind of like nobody wants to come in and be a bookkeeper, but people do want to be part of the
right.
merchant. So maybe you kind of combine the two and you entice your volunteers that way.
Well, I mean, that might have to be some of it. We are working with an accounting firm who have offered services to us for free, which is going to be incredibly helpful. But still, it's nice to have some people who have knowledge in the area
Mhm.
who uh, can help, because that's not my, I have some strengths, but that's not one of them. I would definitely like to have some people who wouldn't mind sharing or lending any expertise, especially if they have any working with nonprofits, especially on, the budget and legal and fiscal side. I mean, those are the ugly details we're working on right now to make sure we put ourselves in a good place to have a more streamlined operation so we can concentrate on fun. And that's where we want to be, right? We want to
Mhm.
be focusing on what happens on match days in the stands. And so we're having as much fun as possible. But to get there, like we've talked about all summer, there's in order to run a good nonprofit in California and maintain your tax exempt status, you have to make sure you do things properly. So
Right.
we want to make sure we have some good standard operating procedures, and guidelines and stuff that we have in place, so we don't run into any potential problems along the way, and we can really just focus on the fun.
So, speaking of focusing on the fun, I think we kind of touched on last week. There's something in the works for the union, some kind of get together. Is that happening? And if it's not, when can people, like, what's the next opportunity to come out and hang out with people and meet some of these folks?
It's a good question. The thing that was happening on the 15th fell through for what we wanted to do. So, well, there were several options on the table, and the main one that we want to do is probably going to, and really, it's not secret. We want to do a practice tailgate experience at Snapdragon. We want to see what the space is like, what it's like when we have a lot of people, where we're setting up tents. It seems, the club is for it. They're trying to help us and work with Snapdragon. Actually, from what I've heard recently, Snapdragon seems to be interested in it as well, kind of as a practice. Like, so we're not showing up on the very first match and things are going crazy. Just invite everybody out, have fun.
Would this be like at a game at Snapdragon, or would this be like a dry run? There's not an event at Snap. Y'all are just going.
It would be the initial plan is a dry run, not an event, because want to plan it around. It's hard to do it if there was another event going on, unless it was a specific soccer event.
Because I'm thinking Snapdragon has to staff this thing, right? If y'all are going to be in the parking lot consuming alcohol, they have to have security. They have to have parking. Like, they have to staff it. So I would like. Do you want to do it with them?
There are some other issues as well, but they, from what I hear, they are interested in the dry run as well to help before we get to that first match day. So
it makes sense.
We're working out logistics because you're talking permits, you're talking other things, you're talking getting people together, you're finding a time that probably has to be on a weekend for members, but also a weekend that doesn't have an event going on at Snapdragon. So
is there on-site storage? Has that been? That's not going to happen.
Those are conversations that were happening. I would say nothing's concrete, but things are looking positive.
I would think you could just
positive.
put a Connex box somewhere in the parking lot, right? Like the union's Connex, and you've got basically a storage.
Right. I mean, in a perfect world, that's what you'd want. One or two. I mean, depending what we need or how big they are, because they come in a couple different sizes. But we have something in there that can be locked up, and we can leave most of our match day stuff there. So especially if you're talking pop-up tents and other things, so you can just pop them up and have them, and you don't have to have people with trucks carting things back and forth all the time.
And those are things, flags, flag poles.
Exactly, yeah. So things you don't need outside a match day, really. Yeah, if we could have a place to store them, that would be ideal. Those are conversations we're having. Part of that ties into potentially where we do tailgating, because there's a couple different options, and we all know that the site's going to be built up at some point, so you have to think in terms of long term as well. Like, where are they planning to do some building? Will that impact, like, if you try to do a site first year or second year or first couple of years, is that going to be bumped because someone decides they want to build? So there are a lot of conversations happening.
I know that people talk about that, but like, some of these issues are later issues, right? Like, this is an issue in 5 years, right? Like, just for the sake of expediency, like, like the priority, the hierarchy of like the priorities, like, I feel like, if something has to change in 5 years, you can deal with that in 4 years. You don't have to solve it right now.
Right. So, I mean, that is like part of the ongoing conversations, and even looking at, well, what potentially could be a much longer term solution, or is there a place that even offers that? So those are conversations they're not really in the forefront at the moment, because right now I would say for us, the push is for official recognition, which is coming up in about 3 weeks.
Well, I think this is like your operations team would be leading some of this, right? Like,
so this is, again, right, we're putting those things in place for stadium support match day operations, TIFO, drummers union, drummers and capos, right? Like all those things we're starting to get in place so we can really start moving forward and having those discussions and start having discussions with Snapdragon and Snapdragon security early. Start to, hopefully build some relationships, work out some issues. And again, not have our first experience of all of us being together trying to do something is on match day, and then everybody's upset because there's confusion around what can be brought in, what can't be brought in, size limits, of flags. So we know all the things that Snapdragon has put out before for the general population, and we're trying to see if that section, those 5 sections there of the supporter section, we can get an exemption from the normal Snapdragon stuff. As long as we show that we can be responsible with the flags and the drums and everything else, that we can bring in bigger flags and banners and drums and
You need bigger
and
poles,
do
man. Gotta have bigger
well.
poles.
Well, right. So those are things that I think if we can start building those relationships, and again, thinking about volunteers, these are some people we need also. We need to start making these teams so we can have these conversations with people who like doing the logistics of stuff and maybe are a good people person, would be good in these conversations with the club and Snapdragon security and SDSU or whoever needs to be part of those conversations, so that we can try to smooth that transition of coming into the stadium, because we already have heard, I'll call them horror stories, of being at different soccer events and people feeling like Snapdragon security just like don't get soccer fans and don't understand, or deny or turn away different things. So we're trying to be proactive to if we can't do something for whatever reason, inform our members well enough in advance so they know, but also work with them to say, hey, look, this is different in this section. Where can we come to an agreement on bringing a bigger, longer, thicker pole, something, to hold a bigger flag? Like, look at some of these other environments and what they're like. This is what we're trying to create. So, those conversations will be starting very soon.
Okay. Now, so in the immediate near term, there's not anything yet, but people should stay tuned. As part of this,
well, there is one thing. Sorry, for an event. There is a members only event. You have to be a union member. That's coming up on the 18th. So we have a union member Discord now, which is separate than the leader Discord that you were involved in. And information's there, but you have to be a member of the union to go to this event. It's not a public event. So just letting people know, if you haven't signed up yet, I think there's still, last I checked, there's probably about 40 spots left for this. So if you haven't signed up yet and you're interested, I don't want to give too much more about it because it's not a public event.
Well, yeah, but you want to entice people, you want to sell people on this. Like, I ain't trying to go to a meeting in a church. Like, what are we talking about here?
It should be a fun thing. I'm going to leave it at that. The information is in the Discord. If you know someone who's already a member, they can share it with you.
I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. That's all.
I know you are.
You tell people, if they show up and they're not a member, you just don't let them in. Hey.
And I'm afraid that is probably going to happen as well, because this is but we'll see. But these are, things you can expect with your union membership, to have some opportunities like this.
Okay. And that was my next question, was the Discord. So yet another Discord channel for
yet another members. Discord channel. Yes.
God damn it. Why? What is so hard about just adding, channels to the one you're already in? Why do I have to be in so many different Discord channels for the same shit? Why?
Well, you're not in leadership, so it wouldn't be any difference. It'd just be one.
This is
for the union.
This is the the
the
metaphorical, theoretical,
right. Well, for us, I mean, in terms of the member Discord, we need, I think, like the locals Discord or the Riptides Discord or Chavos, you want a place where your members can talk, one, socially, get to know each other and have conversations, but also a place to disseminate information, especially information that as we both know, being part of a supporter group, you can't always share publicly on your socials.
Right.
They're not for public consumption,
Right, but
right?
that's
So,
then. But see, the thing is, when you have a separate leadership channel, and we had this with the locals, right?
right,
Leadership stays in their leadership channel. They are not necessarily going over and being active in the member channel, right? Like, because leadership is usually, by the nature of human social interactions, tend to get a little clicky, and like that is your friend network, and you're all in the leadership Discord together talking about stuff and whatever, and the members are maybe not getting all the updates. It's just, personally, in my opinion, it's more difficult when you have to
I
have the same conversations on two different like platforms.
yeah, I I would agree with you there, 100%. I know we've had these conversations before. Um, I think for us, part of the problem was the way the leadership Discord got structured and set up with permissions and things. It was going to be difficult to add members. It's easier then to put the members over on the other side and see if we can start porting the leadership over to that one.
No, that would make sense.
So, right. So it's you start something when you have an idea of the direction you want to go, and you start doing permissions and things, and then if something changes, sometimes it's hard to undo what you did. It's kind
Yeah.
of easier to start over. So we are already the tentative plan right now is to move all the committees over to the member Discord. Um, in the leadership
And
Discord,
these committees, these are your most active members, right? Committees aren't necessarily
yeah,
leadership.
this is
Those
membership and
are the
events and
most
match
engaged
day and
members, and
everything.
I
Yeah,
think you would want those people in the member Discord.
right. And we might just keep the other one for yeah, maybe some of the board stuff that really is just technical board
Yeah.
stuff, but also because we have a system set up to be able to communicate with the front office in there as well. We have kind of a partitioned portion of that that's already set up.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. But right now, members are going into the member Discord, and that's where events are being posted. The Chant app, which we haven't really talked about. So as people sign up through Chant, at the end of it, you're asked to download the Chant app, but that's a way for us to push out notifications to people as well. So we're testing some things, ticketing things with that. So there's a lot of features in there that we will be testing and exploring over the course of this fall to get us ready for match day.
So you're in the early stages of members. You're trying to get people to join. You've got X number of members. Where are like the founders challenge coins? Like, if I am one of the first 500 members of the union, do I get a challenge coin? Do I get
your request?
A founders t-shirt? I mean, whatever, something, right? I feel like merch drives membership. We saw this with the locals. People will join just to get the shirt. People will join to get the scarf. I feel like selling a paid membership with no material return for anyone, right, is a little difficult. But if you have like a limited edition, whatever, right, then you have some kind of memento, you have some kind of keepsake, you have something that says like, hey, I was one of the founding members of this union. And the locals did this with the first 200 members. I can't remember what it was. Some kind of, I don't know if it was a pin or do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I have a pin. Yeah.
So there you go, a pin, right? Now I know a lot of San Diego supporters might not know this because supporter culture here it has proved to be people that aren't very familiar with supporter culture, but pins are a very big part of supporter culture. Pins and patches, right? This is a big thing, especially in MLS. Like you have these patch swaps, and like it's part of your interaction with other supporter groups. Is it's not so much swapping scarves, but like you swap patches with people, and this is something that your members are going to be doing with the members of the other SGs. My brother was a part of like Portland Timbers when he lived in Portland Portland. The Timbers Army when he lived in Portland, and like he just had like this stack of patches from like different teams and just random like crazy, very creative, very cool stuff. Like it's a big part of supporter culture, those patches, and the pins as well. So yeah, I think something like that, like even something as silly as a pin, like that could make a difference. That could spark people to join, because right now, there's an event, a mysterious event that John promises is going to be fun. Won't say that it's not in a church, on a Sunday morning. So he says it's going to be fun. I'm guessing it's not in the church, but that's all. I think that you need more. And it's going to come later, right? Whenever you have games and whenever you have tickets available, everybody's going to come and join. But if you're trying to get people right now, you've got to give them something.
Right, and I agree. So since I know you're not coming back, Andrew, if anybody's listening to this and 100% agrees with Andrew, and you're willing to help volunteer to help lead this initiative, like, come join, contact me. We'll get you set up, because we do need to do this. You're exactly right, and it's one of the merch committee, like doing this kind of stuff, figuring out what we're going to make and do, is
get the USG guys.
Something that's been back.
These Navy guys know all about the challenge coins. They know.
It's been on the back burner for us only because of all the stuff this summer of trying to get like really the business side going. So now that we're, I would say, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for that part, we can really start moving into more of the traditional supporter group types of things out there. And I hope we can tap into some of our
once that fun
wonderful
stuff
artists.
Once that fun stuff starts being a part of it, you're not going to have the issues getting volunteers. I think once you have, the fun, that's what people want. That's what people come out for. We're running up on, I've got a hard out.
Right.
Is there anything we didn't get to? Any dates, important dates people need to know about, or are we just get in there and join the union, get your membership? That's the push, right?
That's the big, get in there, get your membership, join the union. And things are probably going to start coming fast and furious here, and it'll be good. We're going to get some things to do that won't just be exclusive for union members. There'll be some other events that are open to other people and to encourage people to sign up. But also, as you and I have said forever, it's one thing to start getting excited and do this as a supporter group, but we're there to support a team that doesn't even have enough players right now to field an official team. Like we can't even get 7 players on a field right now. So I think as soon as we start getting also some actual,
I'll bet they have at least 11
players
by the time the season starts. I'll bet there's at least 11.
You think so? Yeah,
I think
at
so.
least. All right. Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit of a struggle, like signing up members initially, but the closer we get, it's going to snowball and go faster and faster as we get people signed up. So,
all right. So, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, the email address is info at what is it again?
info@sdisu.org.
And they are on Twitter, they are on Instagram, they are on Facebook.
Well, Twitter and Instagram at SDISUORG, no dot in there, just SDISUORG. I know there's been some things on Reddit, Facebook. So here's the other thing. Nobody likes using Facebook within the group of people who are doing things.
It's
so
crazy.
We need to find someone.
There's so many people on Facebook. It's crazy.
We need to find somebody who is willing to be on Facebook.
Everybody I know hates using Facebook, but like anytime I go on there and I go into these parent groups, it's just full of stuff. The neighborhood group, it's full of a lot of racist crap. Like, oh, there's there's somebody I saw somebody walking around in the neighborhood. Now they had an SDG&E shirt on, but I don't know. They look pretty suspicious to me. Here's my Ring doorbell, and of course, you can imagine.
Sure.
Anyway,
I know exactly where you're going.
That's my experience with Facebook. But yeah. Anyway, that's another digression.
But that and TikTok, we don't have anybody who is remotely interested in monitoring or doing content or anything
supporter
else.
content on TikTok. Maybe I'm just not. I know because I'm on soccer TikTok. I get soccer stuff on TikTok, but I'd never seen any supporter stuff. I don't know if, and maybe that's a growth area for.
So if anybody wants to help us be a trendsetter in that area, reach out. But we don't have anybody internally. And that's, that is also part of it. It would be ideal to be on every possible platform. It's impossible for one person to manage and do all that. One person can maybe really do a couple at a time. So you need a team, and you need someone who's willing to be dedicated to be on that platform. And right now, TikTok and Facebook are not high up on the list of people who are currently involved and willing to volunteer.
Right.
So
okay, well,
you could help us change that.
It's all right. Hit him up on socials. Email John. Tell him you're ready to volunteer, and we'll be back next week. And maybe I can get John to tell us what this super secret special event is by then.
Maybe, yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to Tony Sanchez, who I saw in the chat and watching. And thank you for having me on the pod last night, Tony. All right.
Still waiting on my invite there, Tony. But okay, cool. All right. All right.
Good night.